There we go. Evening, everyone. Nice to see you. Thank you very much for having me. Just wanted to introduce myself. So I'm Dan Kelly, Head of Emerging Talent at Hull City. I wanted to give you a little bit of an insight into my background in talent ID and recruitment. So in my late teens, I stopped playing football through injury or just not being very good, really. I moved into coaching and spent a lot of time over in the States, like a lot of sort of young guys do, go over and have a good time coaching in the States. That then took me to Switzerland, where I got my first sort of opportunity as a coach in the professional game in Nyon, where UEFA's headquarters are. And I was coaching in French and working with a group 3 times a week. I then moved back to England and got my first role in professional football in England with Torquay United's academy, working with the under-10s. Torquay United were bottom of the Football League at the time, and I was working with the under-10s, so the only team that was below us in the Football League were the under-9s, who were better than the under-10s. So it was rock bottom, really. But I learnt a lot there, and quite quickly got the opportunity to move to Exeter City. I spent 6 seasons at Exeter. I started coaching there, and then moved into recruitment. And for those that don't know, Exeter City is a club that is owned by the Supporters Trust, so it doesn't have external investment. Every single penny there is sort of homegrown, if you like, and self-sourced, self-funded. So there's a real pressure and sort of reliability upon the academy there, and in identifying and recruiting young players from the local area, and then developing them and managing them into first-team players and essentially assets to be sold. So the likes of Ollie Watkins, Matt Grimes, Ethan Ampadu, Jay Stansfield, and so on and so forth. There's many more to mention. I've come through that particular pathway. After 6 years or 5.5 seasons, I got the opportunity to relocate to Hull. And looking at the catchment area before I came up here as head of academy recruitment was something that really excited me. Looking at the location and the area and the amount of football that's played here, the amount of success that the club had previously, it was a no-brainer to come and try and recreate what we did at Exeter in Hull. So I've been here just over 3 years now. That was initially as head of academy recruitment, looking after everything from under-7s up to under-21s by myself. And in recent times, we've expanded the department, which I'll come to shortly. And my role has now changed into Head of Emerging Talent. And again, I'll explain what that looks like a little bit later. So, when I joined in 2019, for the audit, the EPPP audit that everyone goes through every season, there was a plan in place that was a 3-year plan. And we've now gone through that cycle, and we've redesigned that academy performance plan. And this is our mission statement, our vision statement. Okay, an academy that produces Premier League quality footballers, which is embedded within its community. Okay, so the two go hand in hand. We want to be an elite pathway that produces elite players, which the club has done for many years and is continuing to do so. But we want it to be embedded within the community. Essentially, we want it to be yours as much as it is the club's. And again, talking about it being yours as much as ours, this is something that I think we can all share in the room and beyond this room as well, is our productivity. So productivity, for those that don't know, is you get scored upon the amount of players that come out of your academy, go on and play first team football. The higher up they go and play, the more points you get, and so on and so forth. So it's a real good judgment for academies, and something that we're really proud of is, as a Category 2 academy, we're the only Category 2 academy in this initial region. We score 3rd in the country for productivity points. So young local players coming through, getting the opportunity to play first team football at Hull City and then beyond, that's something that we pride ourselves upon. We're 5th in the EFL 72 clubs and 12th in the entire country for that. So if you look at the amount of clubs that are renowned for youth development, Hull City is one of those clubs. Okay, and something I'm going to keep coming back to is I think this is something that we can all share in, because the boys who represent our academy, the majority of them, all start with you guys as coaches on the park pitches on the Sunday, and people like Keith registering them in the summer to make sure that they can all play. Up until the end of last season, we were averaging 6 debuts per season. Okay, so that's a lot of debuts. That includes cups. We'd probably judge ourselves upon league debuts. Okay, if we're being really harsh, so that number's not 6 a season, but it's a high number as well. And essentially, we want boys to have a career in the game, whether that's playing for Hull City or Keane Lewis Potter playing for Brentford, or Jared Bowen playing for West Ham, or it might be the other lads who are playing in the Football League. Max Clark played against Stoke yesterday for Stevenage, for example, in the FA Cup. But it also might be guys that go on and have careers as coaches and scouts and other jobs. You have to excuse me saying guys, it's a boys' academy. We have girls and female staff members working with us as well, but essentially it's the boys' academy, so I don't mean to discriminate there at all. So this is what our new look department looks like. The guys down in the bottom corner down here is our department. Okay, it's all in their hands. So good luck, guys. All right. So where it was just myself previously, we've now got Thomas Bryan. Tom, put your hand up. Tom's our new head of academy recruitment, looking after under 7s to under 16s. He's joined us from Morecambe. Previously worked with the Stoke City as a scout there in Rotherham United. Joe Doyle. Joe is a newcomer to not only the club but the area as well, so he's ventured up from down south. Don't hold that against him. Okay, he's joined us from Watford. He's going to be looking after our under 7s to under 12s local recruitment. And then Andy Martin, who I'm sure most people in the room will know or will have seen at some point out and about scouting, is one of our part-time scouts who is our main guy looking after the pre-academy, under 7s and under 8s, and really takes a lot of pride in making sure that the youngest players coming into the pathway are taken care of. And then myself, obviously looking into national recruitment, so not so much locally anymore, but my job is to combine what's already in the building locally and trying to strengthen that and enhance the groups and enhance the club with players from around the UK. So a little bit about our local recruitment. We have our development centres and they feed into our pre-academy. Okay, so the pre-academy is in Hull for under 7s and 8s, and we have 3 development centres at the moment, one in Hull, one in York, one in Grimsby. Okay, so not just the East Riding area, but branching out as well. To help us feed into this these areas is the Tigers Trust. I'm sure you guys know all about the great work that they do, and then we've got the grassroots football and schools football as well, even at this young age. Listening to Pete talking about small-sided games, what we endeavour to provide at our development centres and the pre-academy is small-sided games, 2v2s, 3v3s, 4v4s. And actually it's a good reminder for our coaches that, you know what, if you've got 16 players in your group, you don't need to play an 8v8, you can play 2v2s and you can be managing that around there, more touches on the ball. But essentially our development centres are used for talent identification, and we want those boys the best players, we want them to move along into the pre-academy, and we want those boys then to move along into the academy under 9s. Moving on, we've got under 9s to 12s. That obviously incorporates the academy. Okay, so the best players in the area at that stage, hopefully coming into our academy. I know we've got Mike from Leeds in the building as well, so a little bit of a competitor, but we obviously want the best boys in Hull to come and join us at Hull City. We also have an advanced centre in Hull, which is for these age groups, and that's for the boys that are maybe a little bit late to develop. That might be physically late developers, it might be technically late developers, tactical late developers, whatever it might be, maybe even social and psychological late developers, but people with potential, players with potential that might then break in at 11, 12, 13. Then we move into the youth development phase, under 13s to under 16s. At this point, we branch out a little bit further into the wider region of Yorkshire and Lincolnshire. Okay, Tom, for example, a lot of his scouting may be out and about in sort of South Yorkshire, West Yorkshire way for this particular phase. But we like to make sure that at these two phases here, we're as good as we can be and as aggressive as we can be, which is why you'll see Andy Martin pretty much every week looking at the younger boys to try and get them into the pathway as early as possible. And then we move into emerging talent. So what is emerging talent? So essentially it's trying to find good young players who have potential between the ages of under 17s or 17s and 20, so 17s and 19 years old. The best example at this football club in recent years is Jared Bowen. Nothing to do with me, completely down to our predecessors. Unfortunately, I wish I could claim that one, but not quite. So it's boys that are playing at an array of different standards. It might be in non-league, it might be in Category 1 academies falling out, it might be in Category 3 academies coming up. There might be young players with first team experience at other Football League clubs, but people that we think have got first team potential. So it's always a bit of a risk, but it's also the rewards are very, very high for the player and for the football club, especially if you look at it from a business perspective. When you look at someone like Jared, it gives us a great feeling, but there's also a business side of things when they go on and do great things in the Premier League and international football. That's not to say that we're looking to replace the opportunities for the locally sourced players. Actually, we're looking to support them. So what we find a lot of the time, and I'm sure it's the same at other clubs, is that what's in your building existing is actually better than a lot of the players that are coming out of other clubs as well. So what we're not looking to do is stop opportunities for young players in this region. We're looking to support them, give them different experiences, give our players different challenges against different types of players, and actually enhance our own and their opportunities to play for our first team and go beyond. And again, I think if we're smart with it, not everyone will come through into our first team, but hopefully they'll go and have future careers within the game. And if we can get a balance there between players coming into our first team and players in other first teams, I think we feel we're doing a good job there. Okay, I'm flying through this, so sorry if I'm talking really quickly at you. So, I wanted to just talk about this region. As you can tell, I'm not from the region, moved up from Devon 3 years ago, and I've always been blown away by the size and scale of football in this area. People tell me it's a rugby city. Maybe I'm looking in the wrong places, but I don't feel it is. I know there's 2 rugby league teams, so it clearly is, but I think massively it's a football city as well, a one-club city. I see everyone's really passionate about Hull City when they go out and out and about on a Sunday, and I just see so many young players playing football, and that enjoyment that they have playing with you guys, we want to ensure we replicate in our academy as well. So yes, it's an elite pathway, but we want it to have that grassroots environment for the boys and for their parents as well and everyone involved. We want it to be enjoyable. And it's a massive credit to everyone in the room and a massive credit to everyone involved in youth football in this region that there are so many players playing football. It's honestly where I've come from, it's nowhere near this scale. So yeah, I just wanted to say thank you guys to all of you, because this is where our players start from, really. And it goes back to, I think you guys and everyone involved can share in the successes when the likes of Jacob Greaves captains the club, a local boy, Brandon Fleming represents the club, or Keane Lewis Potter goes and plays for England. I think that's something that the city of Hull can be, proud of and can share in that pride. Again, we've got the schools associations who we're lucky to have 2 schools associations in sort of on our doorstep. We've got Hull and we've got East Riding schools, and then obviously we've got the wider Yorkshire schools as well, and they provide a diverse sort of range of fixtures for our boys. So our lads play against other Category 2 academies, Category 1, Category 3, but they also get the chance to play for the schools associations on the Saturday as well. It's something that we encourage them to do and something we're pleased for them to do in order to have that array of variety in their fixtures. I've got the word demographic in there, and it will lead on to my next slide. My understanding is that Hull and this local region, the demographic is 90% white British, okay? And I think something we're very proud of is that our academy provides opportunities for everybody, and that's something that we really believe in. And I'm going to come on to something called football diversity in a minute. And I just want you to think about the demographic and think about that phrase, football diversity. And then just going back to the slide at the start about embedded in the community. So again, I don't want to labour the point, but this academy and this football club is a representation of the people of Hull. So I would like it if everyone that's involved in youth football in the region can share in the successes and can help the football club to be successful. When one of your own goes through and does well, I think we can all share in that. So the amount of people that tell me about Nick Barnby being from Hull, Dean Windass and so on and so forth, all the guys from the past, but they still get that really good feeling when Keane's on telly or whoever it might be. So we really want to make sure the academy is embedded in its community, and that will be or can be through scouting opportunities. We're going to put our contact details up at the end, and coaching opportunities in the development centres, in the advanced centre, in the academy. If people are interested in helping lads to make that sort of first step into the elite pathway and want to further their coaching careers, or maybe want to try something out in talent ID and recruitment, something a bit different, we're always looking to add good people, and obviously Tom will take on that mantle as well. So okay, and again, just to thank you for everything that you guys do, because I know it's it's hard, when especially the weather we've been having recently, to get out of bed and help all the boys playing football, and girls of course. Not everyone comes through into the elite pathway, but as sort of Pete alluded to, you're giving those great experiences to young children, which will hopefully they'll fall in love with football and be in love with football forever. So I just thought I'd give you 5 minutes just to have a chat in twos and threes in the audience, just to have a think about what does football diversity mean to you, okay? Because what we want to try and do is recruit football diversity into our academy, but actually what does that mean? And hopefully we can give you some prompts which might help you whilst you're coaching, and you might see some players who you might want to put forward to us because of something we've said tonight. So if I just give you 5 minutes, if that's okay, just have a chat amongst yourselves. Okay, guys. Lots of talking about football diversity, I'm sure. Cool. Would anybody like to start us off with what football diversity might mean to you guys? Oh, great. Yes, go on. Hi there.
Sort of like bringing in people of different ethnic backgrounds, religions, cultures, maybe different locations, geographies.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the first place to start, is that we want opportunity for everybody. Okay, so I think our jobs as recruiters and or talent ID and recruiters is to go and find, people and unearth and give opportunities to everybody. It's something that we're passionate about, and we're quite proud of the makeup of our academy. So yeah, absolutely. Socio-economic backgrounds, ethnicity, and so on and so forth, making sure there's opportunities for that type of diversity. 100%, that would be the first place to start. And then I think it goes to then on-pitch diversity in terms of footballing attributes. So has anyone got anything further on that for us? Okay. So Pete obviously spoke about technical ability. In an ideal world, we're going to have players who are technically excellent, can move really, really well, and they're really quick and agile. They are super competitive, super athletic, and really, really quick learners, and are in with us from 6 years old and go straight through to the first team. It's not linear like that. There's not many players like that around, if any, certainly at a young age. So, of course, technical ability is something that we might look for first and foremost in a player. And I think it's probably what attracts most of us, first and foremost, to a player. But there might be other areas of maybe the four corners. So, again, has anyone got a different type of player that we might look for? Tom.
Yeah, so
You better know, by the way.
what it means by football diversity is someone that might show an elite attribute in a certain area, whether that's not the religion race, they might be very good technically, they might be super athletic, and it's just showing which area of excellence they've got in diverse areas. Not just giving just an example one area of that, but let's just focus on that one area, and then others in the environment sort of capture that and then take them to that next level where they need to be. But as long as we've got that one area, that's a diverse area, what we can look for in our environment as well. It might be great at shooting, it might be great at passing, and then once the community you can sort of develop them over the key areas of that model.
Yeah. So essentially, our job is to produce a menu of players for our first team manager to choose from. Okay, and he might like a striker who's really tall and can jump up in the air and can win flick-ons. So we might have to have that type of player in our building. But the next manager, he might like a smaller, quicker, off-the-shoulder type of Jamie Vardy type of player. So we might have to have that type of player in our building as well. So all in all, what I'm trying to get to is you guys as grassroots coaches, especially working in the foundation phase, yes, there's going to be good technical players out there. Yes, we want to see them. But then you might also have players who are not technically gifted, who are good movers, good athletically, and we can maybe teach them how to be technically better, but they may have pace and agility that others aren't born with or haven't developed. There might be players out there on the park pitches. In fact, I know there are players out there on the park pitches who just love to smash through tackles and just run around, folding people in half. We like them as well. We like them, and we like the ones that can jump up and win headers as well, and they can run backwards and they can run forwards, but technically they might not have that decision making yet that maybe our coaches can give them the opportunity to learn and to improve upon. So really it's letting you guys know that we want to recruit a diverse range of football skills, not just technical players, not just athletes, but a little bit of everything. There might be people in there who just are so good at defending. Naturally, they just love defending. So in Bulldog, they're always the ones that are the catchers, and they're always trying to tag people. They just love defending space, and they just get it. They understand it naturally, and then we can teach them how to then step in with the ball like John Stones and make those decisions. So does that make sense? Yeah. Does anyone have any questions on that at all? Okay, great.
I wondered what the club's view was on the heading today.
Yeah, it's a good one. So do I. Yeah, it's. I'm not sure is the answer to that one. Do you mean no heading under the age of 12? Is that? Yeah. Well, I wouldn't want to speak on behalf of the club on that one, but maybe we can chat privately afterwards and have a conversation about that if you'd like. It's not something I've got too much of an opinion on, really, if I'm honest.
Within the club, you allow at your age group?
Yeah, I think within academy football, it's correct me if I'm wrong there, but I think it's still allowed. It's still within the rules.
Talk about diversity. Can I ask where HTT sort of looks at the gender? So we've got a really good or up-and-coming Hull City ladies,
Sure.
right from very young ages. Is there any future plans where perhaps they can even play against each other or things like that?
Yeah, again, Sue, I don't know the answer to that. I know that obviously the new ownership are really passionate about being inclusive for everybody. Of course, we're part of the boys' pathway, yeah. So I feel like I'm shirking the question there. I'm sorry. It's a very good question, and I know that obviously girls' football and female football is thriving in Hull, and there's a good group of players there. So, but the honest answer is I'm not sure. All right. Any more questions before we wrap up? Yeah.
Not really much about football dynasty, but more about your job, really.
Okay.
How do you know what games to go watch? Obviously, you do the national. And like, Pete Sturgess, Brighton Samson, 16-year-olds from Sweden.
Mhm.
I think I want to really find out about them.
Yeah.
How do you receive like a tip off someone or?
Yeah, usually Andy Martin tells me where they are, and I just go and jump in the car and watch them. No, it's a really good question, actually. It's a really good question. Yeah, it's a mixture. So I think obviously we've got a lot of scouting is your network, and people giving us information about players. So people like yourselves, funnily enough, giving us a call or an email and saying you've seen a player or you've got a player at your club that you think we should look at. We rely upon that massively, which is why we're so grateful for that. As you move up through the ages and it comes to a bit more national, our network will obviously extend into club contacts elsewhere, other coaches at other professional clubs, scouts that we might have around the region, around the country, and agents as well who have got players that they're looking to move along and that kind of thing. So it's a real variety of ways of finding out about a player. Okay. I'm going to wrap up there, guys, and there's obviously a Q&A later on. So any more questions like that, I'd be really happy to answer. But thank you very much for your time. Hopefully it's given you a little bit of an insight into what we're doing behind the scenes at your club. You might not support the club, but it's your club because you're here. And again, thank you very much for everything you do for the young players in Hull. Here's contact details.
Cheers, Dan. Really insightful. Thank you very much for that. We are now going to invite Michael up to the stage, and by it's like magic, isn't it? So if you close your eyes and count to 60, we'll be sat on there very soon. But please give a warm welcome to the stage, Michal Pujdak, who's the assistant lead coach for Leeds United under-23s. Under the spotlight.
Is it working?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Can I start, by the way? Can I make a statement? When I was invited to do this and chat to you guys, I was told I was going to be able to do a nice keynote presentation, put the slides up, and let it roll, right? And recently, I've been told, change of plans, we're going to do a Q&A, okay? So later on, I might get asked, what's the advice for the up-and-coming coaches? Being flexible is, right?
There you go.
And by the way, whilst I was preparing for the Q&A, and Dan put the slide up about the productivity, I was thinking my picture will pop up, because friends in my circle say I'm born and bred in Hull. So I was hoping to add to the productivity, but unfortunately, you didn't take that into consideration, did you?
Well, there. What an introduction that is. Mike, honestly, if we'd done this probably 10 years ago, 13 years ago, I mean, 2007 when you came over here, you'd have probably been sat in the room, grassroots coach yourself. It's amazing, isn't it, to see how many people are here supporting the event tonight. But take us back to when you came over to the UK, your football journey, and how you got to that FA Level 1 coaching course.
You're right. It has been a while ago now, and it's so good to see you all here, because it means that you really care about the development of young children. And yeah, back in the day, I played a little bit, and I very early found out that I wasn't good enough, and I was really passionate about the game, and I wanted to carry on being involved in the game. And yeah, I was living locally, and at the time I was looking for opportunities to get involved and stay in the game. And I bumped into a friend of mine who told me, you must go and enroll on this level 1 coaching qualification. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be any good. And I shouldn't have passed, by the way. But I did, and that was a long time ago, and it set me up on a wonderful journey that I'm so grateful for, and the county FA staff are part of it, because I can see so many familiar faces here, and I remember you being around when I enrolled on that FA Level 1, and I was sure that I wasn't able to pass it.
So when you look at your playing days, and obviously you stopped playing because of injury, etc., what is it about coaching that made you want to go into that pathway?
I don't think there is a straightforward answer to that question, Chris. I could relate to a lot of stuff that you were talking about, Pete, today, early. I feel like the passion for coaching started very early in my life. I remember being at school and having this real thirst for measuring performances. So I would get my classmates and get them out on the football pitch and ask them to take penalties or have 1-versus-1 scenarios, and I would take notes who was any good, so I could pick them on my team for school. And on a serious note, the stuff that Pete is talking about is so valuable, and I would nudge you to capture as much as you possibly can, because I'm like that, and that's why I carry my pad and my pen with me everywhere, because I've made a lot of good notes. And what I do through coaching is I try to help young children and young adults now, in my case, learn early what I have been taught late, or I have learned myself late. Because it's very important that we give them, as practitioners, the best platform to enjoy the game and be successful and be able to progress within the game, whatever the progress might look like.
And when you look back, Mike, at when you started coaching, the people who influenced you and people who probably are not the most qualified people, but what the qualities that they have that you've been able to impart on other people as well?
Like I said earlier, there is so many familiar faces here that I've bumped into along the journey. Yourself, Chris, Liz, Adam, Steve, so many coaches as well that I've already had a chat in the canteen. I think over time, as we do this, and as we part of the game, we become a sum of the experiences we have in the game. So I'm pretty confident that after tonight, you'll go away and you will have some memories that you will link to tonight. And then you will take into your coaching sessions, and you will take into your game environments, and you will take into your interactions with the players. I've had many people that had an impact on me. If we're talking about local people, a guy who was really the first one who taught me how to help the children learn the passion for the game and stay in love with the game was the guy who is no longer with us, Chris Blakeston. It will be his 3rd anniversary of his death. He was the first one who took me under his wings and showed me what caring for young children really looks like. As I transitioned from playing myself, going straight into coaching, I was thinking to myself, this boy can't do it. I can pass the ball over 20 yards. He can't. What's wrong with him? And there was nothing wrong with that boy. I needed to start with myself first. And Chris was the one who really taught me that skill. Another person that I'm really grateful for that I came along in my short journey as a coach was Billy Russell, who was academy manager at Hull City for a long time. And Billy, along with other members of the team, was a creator, a designer of the environments that allowed some of those players that Dan put on a slide to be successful and excel in the game. And I'm very grateful for Mick Matthews, who was the guy who delivered my first coaching qualification, level 1. And Mick is a great guy. Pete, I'm sure you see him quite often. I'm so grateful for everything he did with me. He delivered level 1, level 2, even my B license. It's a shame he couldn't assess me on my B license because the rules have changed and we've transitioned into the old way of doing it into the new way. And I was thinking, yes, I've got my B license, Mick likes me, I'm going to pass, and then the structure of assessment changed and I had to be assessed by somebody else. But one thing I wanted to share with you is what Mick has left with me forever, really. The plan, do, review model, and Pete has alluded to it in his presentation. Mick has taught me that it's so important to evaluate and reflect about our practices. And we invest so much time and effort into going out and working with our ladies and our boys and girls. And it's so important for those children to have a bright future. We have to be able to improve our practices and improve our delivery. And to be able to do that, we need to actively reflect. And that's something I've taken away from Mick, who really exposed me to being vulnerable. Because as the guy who works on behalf of the FA, he was often working on my shoulder and telling me what I needed to do better. And at the beginning, I couldn't quite grasp it. Why is this gentleman telling me all the time I'm not perfect? And with time, I've realized that perfection doesn't exist. And by being open to receiving feedback, we learn how to give effective feedback. And I think that's the source of real progress within the context that we work in.
And I promise I've not teased you up, but Mickey's actually delivering our next CPD event, and Liz will be on stage soon telling us about that. So that is, hey, what
Great.
an advert that is.
Like-minded people.
But obviously, you know, the people in the room, there'll be some people who are aspiring to work in the game professionally. You know, many people will be happy working at grassroots level. Just give us a little insight into how you've gone from your FA level 1 to working with Leeds United.
Ooh, how long have we got for this conversation, Chris? I think it all goes down to being passionate about the game. I can see some grey hair in the room and some bald heads as well, which means you know the person that I will mention, Arsene Wenger. He once said that there is a lot of people wanting to work in the Premier League, but not everyone is prepared to invest the time and effort. And there isn't any guarantees. Even with the commitment and investment of time, it's not easy. But what I really captured from that is that if we want to achieve something, we've got to be prepared to make the first step. So for all of those that are here tonight and are keen to get on that elite pathway in coaching, I wouldn't even wait to give Dan a call. I would make sure I grab him as he walks up the stairs after this event, and make sure you pin him and you ask for the opportunity to get involved in the academy and start coaching next week. And if he says no, then he lied to you because there aren't any opportunities. But I'm sure he'll say yes. Okay.
Well, it's funny, I've not teed you up as well. Dan is going to speak about some coaching opportunities. It's honestly like mind reading today, but it is, I mean, you do it as a job now, but you must still have the same love, the same passion as when you was in grassroots football to working professionally. What are the things that you look back on and you go, do you know what? It's almost, when the players are on the pitch, does it just feel like it just comes naturally? It's just the same? You're working at a higher level, but, you know, from being on a park pitch to on a professional pitch, you know, it must still feel the same for you.
I must say and confess, Pete, I really enjoyed watching the clips of the kids running around in the foundation phase, because this is the purest form of football. Later on, and in professional context, the finance gets involved, the competition gets involved, and sometimes the passion for the game evolves. It's always there. It must be there, otherwise people would come out of the game and not do it anymore, and you probably hear about it and read about it and see it on telly. If you're really, really keen on being a professional game, you need to go and grab it with both hands, look for the first opportunity, start somewhere, talk to people in the local area, and put your name forward. And it's very rewarding. Going back to your question, Chris, when you see a young player like Keane that we've seen, who's gone to Brentford, like Jared, who's gone to West Ham, Marks has been mentioned, Greavesy has been mentioned, and to be able to rub the shoulders with them on the training pitch, it just feels special. And I think that's what keeps you going every day. And my passion for development gives me a real energy when it comes to working with players. And there are challenges. It's never plain sailing. There are challenges, and the reflection part comes to it because we have to find ways. So one of the gentlemen asked the question about how to deal with a group of 16 players. And sometimes we have to find a solution. If one thing doesn't work, what's the solution to my problem? If I don't know the solution to that problem, can I reach out? And well done for being very courageous in asking that question. Could you put your hand up so I can see? What's your name, please? Steve. That was a great question. And for you to show that vulnerability to ask a question in a forum, because I'm sure you're trying to come up with an answer, and you weren't sure. And please, reach out to people. I mean, I can't help you with a lot, but if you wanted to reach out, you can grab my contact details and you can ask a question. And if I don't know the answer, I'll probably recommend another person that might give you a better answer. And I think coaching is about sharing, about being a good thief, because we pick up little things from everyone. And for me, that's a real essence of coaching, and it gives people pleasure when you see that one youngster, that one girl or one boy who is making real progress within a professional game.
Well, he talks about sharing, so $1 million question, if you could give one bit of advice to the coaches in the room, to the people in the room, what would it be?
Can I look into my part? I'm going to refer to Pete's presentation. Pete talked about the game within the game. And as a young coach, I wanted to go fast. I wanted to smash one level after another. And I was really privileged to work with some high-performing coaches at my current club. And the guy I'm going to refer to is called Marcelo Bielsa, and some of you might know the name. But I'm bringing him up because he actually made me think that I needed to unlearn some of the bad habits I had as a young coach, and I had to relearn and learn new resourceful habits. That is, looking at the game within the game. So Pete talks about 1-versus-1 scenarios, small-sided games, and Marcelo was such a good reader of those small situations. The finest detail, breaking the game down into small chunks and trying to analyze what do the athletes at the top level do. And I'm catching myself now. I'm trying to progress myself, and I'm doing little projects. And originally I'm from Poland, and we've got one of the best strikers in the world. He's my age, and I've never actually paid attention to how he plays. I just know he scores goals, he helps our national team, and only recently when he's gone to play for Barcelona, I've started to think I could actually capture something from him. And I started to watch footage, game after game, game after game, and I'm picking up little subtle details. And the model which Pete shared with you under the microscope, if you haven't paid for this event a penny, this CPD is worth £10,000. I promise you, £10,000. The model that Pete shared with you under the microscope, I'm using it. I've been introduced to it, and it's such a great tool. And I'm sure you guys go to watch Hull City, or you go and watch your favorite clubs in Premier League or in Football League. Whether you do it with your friends or with your children, pause for a moment when you go to a stadium, pick your favorite player, and watch what he does for 90 minutes. And that would be the first task I would give to any wanting to progress coach. Just chunk the game down, look at the fine detail, and you will find so many answers to the questions that you have. And answers to those questions will help you progress your youngsters within your teams, within your groups that you are taking care of to progress within the game.
And if the price of next year's conference does go up, you know who to blame now. But no, my assistant lead coach for Leeds United under 23s, what is day to day? What is the role?
We definitely haven't got time for me to explain in detail. It ranges from everything, from planning, doing the sessions, reviewing the match footage, preparing the analysis of the opposition, prepping and playing the game, coaching within the game. And basically it's about helping high potential players bridge the gap between a youth football and effectively transfer into the first team game. That's the ultimate goal. So I'm responsible as part of the team, broader team, to achieve that goal. We have a clear vision at the club how we want to do that, and we've had some success in terms of first team debuts that Dan alluded to. It's what the clubs measure because it gives them an objective answer to how good the program is and how effective the staff within the organization is. But I'll use a metaphor to answer your question, Chris. Pete has talked about giving them the basic skills, being able to manipulate the ball, being able to share the ball in a timely manner, being able to scan, to see the surroundings, to identify where is the pressure coming from, all that detail, and we still coach the players with the same detail. So whether it's an under 5 or under 7, under 13, under 21, or even a 23-year-old player who is within the first team squad, we still work with the same concepts. And I'm going to challenge you, ladies and gentlemen, because the way I see my role, or the way I see the role of the developmental coach, is to give players vitamins, to give them vitamins so they don't have to take painkillers later. And for me, it's so important. If we miss that bit where they haven't got the capacity to stay on the ball and they haven't got the capabilities to use the ball and share it with the teammates, they're going to take painkillers because the game is going to be too hard, the game is going to suss them out, some leave the game, and I'm not from here, right? But I really like the passion of the English game to win the World Cup. And if you really want to contribute to that objective and support Gareth and his team in achieving that goal, you've got to make sure you give them the right vitamins frequently and consistently.
I suppose last question then, Mike. I mean, I can't believe it, you're younger than me. But where is it going to end up for you? What's the ultimate goal?
Oh, that's a difficult question, Chris. I feel really fulfilled. My ambition and passion is to help players continue to grow. I love interactions with the players. I love interactions with the staff on a daily basis. It gives me energy, and that's where I invest my energy into. I really want people to get better and be able to achieve their personal desired goals and dreams. Not just in football context, but also in the family context. I've got a little daughter who's been on this stage. I was telling Liz earlier, she was on this stage last year, and I wanted to take a picture to show her that I was also on the same stage. But from a professional point of view, my ambition is to test myself in European competition. I would like to experience that and see how well I can do. And long-term goal, I would like, just like I'm here tonight with you guys, and I feel really privileged to be able to contribute and connect with the community that I grew up in as a young coach. I would like to work with the national team of Poland. That's my dream and that's my ambition. I might have to wait a long time for it, but I keep making those little steps and I keep searching for the opportunities. So make sure you search for your opportunities and grab done at the end of this event.
Ladies and gentlemen, Michal Pujdak. So next up we have Liz Shipp. So, Liz, you are often the person on the end of a phone call, on the end of an email. People probably know you by name rather than by face. But, Liz, tell us about what your role is at the East Riding FA and what you do to support coaches in the county.
Put my glasses on first. So my role now has changed slightly since we've come back after lockdown. My role is to plan and organise the CPD events, the development workshops, to help our local coaches, and that's to follow on from the national courses. I support Chris with the England accreditation. So when you all need your renewals or you need new qualifications, I'm there to still support you with those through the England Learning or the FA Boot Room as it was. I work closely with the new FA CDO team, which is Pav, Ryan and Suey, for those of you who have been to some of the CPD workshops last year. And I also work with Paul Smith, who used to be one of our tutors, who will have delivered a lot of your level 1s and 2s previously. And he's helping me support those new coaches who have done the FA Playmaker and the Introduction to Coaching, where we do some practical support sessions to help those coaches just get that bit more confidence to go out there and put into practice what they've learned.
There's been some big changes, hasn't there, in the sort of last couple of years. How has coach education changed and the transition to England learning?
So it's changed dramatically, really. So we no longer now deliver any of the national courses. They're all administered through FA Education and are primarily all online. So we are there with the CPD workshops, which the FA have put in place. They've put a selection of different workshops for us to deliver, and those follow on to support your learning what you've done with the national courses, like the introduction to level 1, the level 2. So the courses we deliver now are follow-ons to help you with this to practical support to what you've learnt with them.
And there's already a big programme of workshops coming up, isn't there? Mike's done a great job of selling the first one, but tell us about some of the workshops that are coming up that people in this room can access.
Yeah. So our next workshop is with Mick Matthews. Mick works with the professional game. He's still an FA tutor, an FA lead like Pete Sturgess. But he is with the professional game and with a selection of teams within our region. And he is going to deliver our next CPD, and it's a 2-part, so the one in February is part 1. We then have a workshop with Suey Smith, we have one with Pav Singh, and we then also have a Get Into Football coaching, which is for our new coaches that have just done the FA Playmaker or the introduction to level 1. And those are all on, if you go on our website, you will find that we now have a development booklet, and all the dates, venues, and all the information regarding those workshops are in there.
Excellent, and we would urge people, wouldn't we, to use social media channels and our website. That's the best place to find the information for upcoming workshops.
Yeah, we try and put all the information on the Grassroots community, our Facebook page, and also, again, if any of you have any ideas, we have done a survey previously, if any of you have any ideas of some workshops you would like to see, or you can suggest to us to try and run them, please feel free to email us and let us know, and we will try and go out of our way to do that. We have, last season and again this season, we've also joined up with the Hull City Academy, where Matt Hare has kindly delivered workshops down at the County FA, or we've travelled up to Bishop Burton College, where we've observed their coaching sessions with their academy teams. So they're great opportunities for those coaches who want to go that bit further.
Excellent, thanks Liz. Right, so for the final part of tonight's conference, we'd just like to welcome back Pete, Michael and Dan up to the stage. So if you have got any questions, please get them ready. So, have we got any questions? Hands up if any gentleman there.
So is there a question for Pete? Talked earlier about the importance of small-sided games, and I think you mentioned the FA will potentially look at this, or how we could sort of encourage that. Is that a serious consideration to reduce, maybe under 12 stay at 9-a-side longer, under 10 stay at 7-a-side longer, things like that? Is that what's going on?
There is going to be, 10 years ago, there was a complete youth review where we went to small-sided games. Massive culture change for us in England. We are undertaking a mini format review. So it's in 2 parts. There's going to be a look at smaller formats and what the returns are. As part of that, there's going to be people who are working with John Moores University who are doing the largest research piece on the returns from different opportunities, and within that will come different formats, and then that will almost pave the way as to what we then do in the future. So they're going to look at two things, and it's got a very football agenda, but also a wider social agenda. During the research with John Moores, they're going to look at smaller formats and the frequency of technical actions so that it can support our drive to develop more skillful players. The societal returns will be, we're looking at the physical activity levels of each participant as they take part in 2v2s as opposed to 4v4s or 5v5s. It's going to be the largest research ever undertaken in Europe, and we're going to use that data to help us decide what the game looks like in the future. So for me, it's really exciting, and hopefully it gives us a mandate to put in place with your support, because it will always be done with the support of the grassroots game and consultation with the grassroots game. It'll allow us to put some things in place that are really going to consolidate this drive for more skillful players. Dead exciting. Anybody else?
Anybody else with a question? Go on, Paul.
One for Michael. Michael, for years. You've had a few hats on over the years. Which one's taken your most time and which one have you enjoyed the most?
Thanks for that question. Not an easy one to answer. Like I alluded to it earlier, we become a sum of the experiences that we gather along the journey. And I was really privileged to put on a few hats in the past. And I think that the biggest gain from it was that I had to be flexible and adaptable to meet the demands of the role and to be able to perform in it effectively. So for those that are curious, I've worked in professional academy as a part-time coach. I'm working now within the structure of the Premier League club, closely with the first team, but I also worked in the past in schools. I delivered after-school clubs. I worked within the community, which the County FA has helped me massively, where I was trying to help children from disadvantaged families enjoy the game. And I've worked in college settings, so I had to put on a few different hats on, and the benefits of being exposed to all those experiences is that we learn and we develop different skill sets. Just like we help the players develop that toolbox, I think the exposure to different scenarios as a coach helps us massively. So if you're unsure about taking up an opportunity that is maybe not really what you're sure about at this moment in time, just dip your toes a little bit, give it a go, and then you might change your mind. But ultimately, it will be an experience that will help you make a decision later down the line. And I would encourage any aspiring coach to put yourself out there and try different things. Don't limit yourself.
And Dan, I've got a question for you. In terms of the, there's been an ownership change at the club. Has that been impacted at academy level, or is it business as usual? Has things changed, or?
Changed ever so slightly. There's obviously been the expansion of the recruitment department. I think the academy's a big part of the ownership and their plans. They're very passionate about young people within Hull doing well. So, yeah, yes and no. I think that the previous ownership were also very passionate about that as well and gave a lot of opportunities to young players, I have to say. But hopefully now, obviously, with the investment that's needed, slowly but surely, I'm sure that will, start to trickle through to the academy, and it'll go from strength to strength.
And Pete, one of the questions Dan fielded was about the heading trials, etc., etc. I know the FA have been running their own trials. What is there an insight into what we can expect, or what's happened, or where we're at with it?
How
Without
controversial
revealing
do you
any
want to
secrets.
be? Yeah. I've been sat on the group actually that's looking at the heading protocols. So we have just completed some trials. There are very, very, very few natural headers that occur in small-sided football. So if it might sound really complicated, but if through the review, through the data that we've already collected from games that we've observed, and I think we've observed almost 400 games at different levels, that includes of almost 4,000 young people. The number of headers, if you play smaller-sided formats, actually drops even more and more. So we could almost reduce the number of headers by having this format change. I think the really difficult area that is going to be the trickiest to solve is that youth development phase, where you are moving towards the adult part of or version of the game, where heading becomes more of an integral part of it. So heading is a skill that we need our players to develop, partly so that they head the ball safely, but also they can use those skills within the game. So I think for the foundation phase, there's not enough headers for us to really say we need to ban it. So I think if we look at the formats, we'll reduce it to such a point where if it's only 1 or 2 per game, which is what the data is telling us, we'll be okay. I think the real issue comes when the players are getting slightly older. I think if we take away heading without banning it for players under the age of 12, I think we can do that by looking at the formats of the game that they play. So,
Any other questions? Oh, we'll go here first and then we'll go.
I come to the last workshop that Matt Hare put on. We watched the practical and we read about the development of those if they don't make it, whatever education you do them. Would the club ever consider sending those 16, 17, 18-year-olds down to help the grassroots coaches out in coaching sessions?
So our full-time players in the scholarship groups, you mean? Yeah, I think it's a really good idea. I think we'd obviously be open to that. I think as part of the scholarship program, there's certain public appearances that the boys have to do, and I think the scholarship, for example, is part of training the boys for the demands of first-team football, and obviously, as they move into first-team football, those public appearances become more and more with press conferences and interviews and those kind of things. So, yes, is an answer to the concept of that. And obviously, if you want to take my contact details at the end and email that through to us, I'll be happy to pass that on to the education department and the academy manager and see if it's something that they could help to facilitate. No problem.
Excellent, and then there's a question up at the top.
My question is to Dan. Has, a bit of a strange question,
Oh, good.
Brexit impacted scouting in a positive or negative way? Because in my own business it's made it harder to recruit people, but has it had an impact and could that actually have a positive impact to English football coming through?
That's a brilliant question, by the way. Yes, it has had an impact. I think in many different ways. So the first one would be that obviously the big clubs can't go and recruit from outside of the UK until 18 plus, and even then there's rules and sort of stipulations on that. So it means that we're all recruiting from the same pool of players. It means in the past, Hull City have been successful in recruiting players such as Dan Batty or Tom Kearney, who I believe both came out of Leeds United. Those players don't get released from Leeds United anymore. And other clubs, I'm not using Leeds as the example, but in general they don't get released because they need to keep hold of those players, which means they don't come to Hull City. It also means that clubs are being more aggressive around players in I suppose, lesser academies, lower academies, Category 2 and Category 3, even Category 1 academies, yes. I think the positive towards that is British players they have longer with the better clubs before they are sort of replaced with players from outside of the UK, which nothing wrong with that, but it gives British players a little bit longer. I think for a club like us who want to focus a lot of our recruitment on the local area, it gives them even more opportunities to come through and play. And obviously Chris asked the question about the ownership. This ownership are just as passionate about the pathway for young players into our first team, obviously coming from overseas, as the previous ownership were, who came from Hull. So that obviously builds into that as well. So yeah, that's a really good question. Hopefully that helps.
Can I ask, I read somewhere that a 14-year-old player got signed from Reading to Man City. Who does Reading get paid that money? Who gets that money?
Don't get into the compensation.
Yeah, compensation. The compensation model and everything like that is obviously quite a broad conversation. But yeah, essentially it would go to Reading for the work that they've done to develop that player.
Any more questions?
We were asked a few months ago to do silent supporting on the sideline. Just interested in your thoughts, really. Talk about different, anyone really, and everyone.
I tell you what, Mike, what do you think of silent weekends, and then we'll get the FA answer.
I apologise, my naivety. I'm not familiar with the concept. Could you
Mike,
shine the light
FA
on
ran a campaign, so spectators, coaches, etc., basically let the players play and reduce their interaction and the support. Well, not support, but noise, etc., etc.
I mean, the first question I would ask is, what's the objective? What's the outcome, intended outcome? And I feel sometimes that if you haven't got a lot of good thing to say, don't say anything. And then on the flip side, I would say that coaching is very simple. The game is simple. So how could you make the messages, how could we make the messages as simple as possible? And I catch myself not getting it right, by the way, so I'm saying it because it's part of something that's in my head. With English not being my first language, I always need to be on top of my game to make sure that my messages to the players are effective and they hit the sweet spot. So, you know, if the idea behind the silent touchline is to help people involved in the game be more aware of the consequences that the feedback and the communication is having, positive or negative, then I think it's a very good idea. And then how do we work with the data that we collect through those events where we say it's a silent weekend? I think feedback is so important. Feedback is important, and being able to reflect what have we achieved through having those actions, what were the trade-offs. But for me personally, coaching is how can I give that message to a player, package it nicely so it lands with the player, and the player is able to execute what we ask him or her to do.
I can't give you the FA answer, but I'll give you mine. I think Mike's spot on with saying what are the returns, or what are you trying to achieve? And for me, working with the children who I work with, they actually want quite a lot of positive affirmation rather than the adults being judgmental or critical or constantly saying things that ultimately mean that you're not good enough. Well, they're probably not good enough because they haven't had enough experience or the right kind of opportunities or the right kind of support. And it's almost like a sledgehammer to crack a nut in saying, don't say anything. I know some of the kids that I coach, when they do something well, or it's something we've worked on, or it's something we're trying to get them better at, and they do it in a competitive environment, they immediately look across to me to say, you know, that was it. This is what I think you're looking for. And I think if we take that away, we're taking away one of the most powerful things that a coach can have, which is noticing somebody doing something well or doing something that we've helped them to try to get better at. And I think the silence actually begins to shut that down. And I think we have to educate so that we can find a much better balance than asking the adults to just be quiet. But that's a personal point of view. But I do feel quite strongly about it.
Excellent. Okay, one last round. Any more questions? Okay, Liz, so I think somebody's going to leave here a winner. It's not been announced, is it? But would you like to tell us a little bit more about?
So in two of the folders there is a label underneath your pitch sheets, and it just says ERFA. And if you were one of those, you can win a bag of training balls.
So if you have got one, if you just want to make yourself known to Liz at the end, and we'll sort out the footballs. Okay. Yours. Excellent. Okay, so I think we've got our two winners, and before we leave, Dan just wants to let us know about some fantastic opportunities at Hull City Academy.
Yeah, so it's just to build on what I said in the presentation, really. Tom, Joe, Andy and myself will just be hanging around at the end. If you have an interest in coming on board as a coach or a scout, please come and see us. You don't quite have to pin me, as Michael said, that you can be civilised about it. But I think Michael gave some really, really good advice about getting into the pro game, and it's really invaluable. And I'd just like to build on that ever so slightly and talk about going above and beyond. There's lots and lots of people that want to work in football. It's a very, very glamorous industry on one hand, and a very, very unglamorous industry on the other. It's a lot of hard work, a lot of hours, but I think, certainly from a Hull City perspective, we need people, and those people that go above and beyond and are willing to help and really invest in themselves, they're the type of people that can quite quickly progress into full-time professional football. So just wanted to let you know about that as well. Okay.
I just wanted to say thank you for the invite tonight, and that made me laugh because there are a lot of advantages of working the pro game. And also you have to spend a lot of time at the football club or traveling up and down the country. But pro game isn't for everyone. And what I want to leave with you guys, ladies and gentlemen, tonight is that every John Stones, every Lucy Bronze, every Bukayo Saka, they had a coach like you when they were little. So please keep putting the effort in and keep making the difference, because you're having a fantastic impact on young people of the future. Thank you.
That was like a drop the mic moment there, wasn't it? But no, seriously, we've been so privileged to have our three guests tonight. Just give them one more round of applause, please. And that is it. Thank you so much for the work that you guys do. We genuinely appreciate it. And like Liz said, there is more opportunities to upskill, to learn. England Learning on the internet, whether it's in person, CPD events, there's plenty more opportunities. So please keep in touch, okay? And have a safe journey home.